Yeah. So I think we take it as a bit of an anti-conventional approach.
Sure.
So I'm really bullish on any time in my life. I've been trying entrepreneurship since like 17 years old, and anytime I tried to create a product that wasn't for me, instead for somebody I believed existed rather than who I was, it
Mhm.
never really worked out. And so I don't think you need that much data to come up with a great concept for what you want to do in CPG. I think what you absolutely need to do is satisfy your own itch, satisfy something that you wish existed in the landscape. So I think that's
Mhm.
tidbit number one, is really focus on what you want to see in the market that doesn't exist.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then number two is I'm a huge believer, and this is not a conventional wisdom. This is just my belief. I like playing in super huge saturated markets.
Sure.
And the reason why I like that is because I believe saturated markets, by definition, are the markets that have the least innovation in it. And people are
Yes.
scared to do it because they think that by something being saturated, people think that you cannot succeed in it. And that for me is the furthest thing from the truth. I think saturated markets prove that there's a huge customer base, and that if you create something that's 10x better than what's there, you will win at speed, you will win at scale, and you will win globally because the markets already exist. So that's my belief there. So I think those are the two things. If you stick to that, you should find success.
Hi, Nick. Good morning.
Good morning, my man.
How are you?
Very good, brother. I'm just fired up to be doing this. I know we've been trying to put it together for a few weeks,
Yeah.
so I'm happy we finally got it done.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining in. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure, my friend.
Awesome. Awesome. Hi, viewers. Good morning. Welcome to the new episode of Sustainable Future Food Stock. Today we have with us Nick Saltarelli from Canada. Nick is the co-founder of Midday Squares. He is a proud lifelong student of entrepreneurship. He doesn't believe work-life balance, but rather a fully integrated life of both in a beautiful harmony. His life goal is to teach as many people to think for themselves and compete against themselves. If one has to sum it up, it is his life's mission to inspire people to be bold. Uh, awesome, Nick. So, if you can give a brief introduction about yourself and Midday Squares, how are you building it up, and from there we can take it forward.
100%. So hi, everybody. My name is Nick Saltarelli. I'm one of the co-founders of Midday Squares. Midday Squares for me is really we call it a functional chocolate company, and people always ask after that, what does that even mean? So I think chocolate bars have been around for over 100 years in the form that we know it, and nobody's really rethought what it looks like to be a chocolate bar company today. And I think Midday Squares is really that. And so when people say, what is functional chocolate? I always tell them, well, it's a combination of a chocolate bar that doesn't just give you that sweet tooth craving, but we actually help you curb your hunger craving. We make sure that after you eat the product, you feel good, you feel full. It's loaded with fibers and proteins. So it's just really clean. And the number one thing people always tell us is that it actually makes them feel great. And that makes me pumped. So don't take it from me. Google Midday Squares reviews, and you'll get to see what everybody's saying about the product. And the reason why I got into this was really my wife, who is an incredible inventor, an incredible creative, had created the product, and I saw the way people were reacting to it, and we were really excited about working together. So we got together, created a company. Took us a year to commercialize the product. And then we brought on my brother-in-law, who's our third partner, who's probably a genius when it comes to creating community.
Awesome.
And the rest is history. We started in 2018, and we're pretty much coast to coast in the US and Canada. So we're all over North America.
Lovely, lovely. So that really sounds delicious. I mean, I'm also looking forward to taste it now. That really.
Well, yeah, you know what? Let's figure out a way. I'll work with my team. We'll get it. We'll get it to wherever you are. I mean, I've done shipments to really far places, even if it
Awesome.
costs us the money to get it. I would love for you guys to try it.
Awesome, awesome. So, Nick, I mean, you have an extensive experience in the CPG industry now. So, if you can please suggest a few tips for the emerging brands to identify that right target audience or defining the customer in this natural food space.
Yeah. So I think we take it as a bit of an anti-conventional approach.
Sure.
So I'm really bullish on any time in my life. I've been trying entrepreneurship since like 17 years old. And anytime I tried to create a product that wasn't for me, instead for somebody I believed existed rather than who I was, it never really worked out. And so I don't think you need that much data to come up with a great concept for what you want to do in CPG. I think what you absolutely need to do is satisfy your own itch, satisfy something that you wish existed in the landscape. So I think that's tidbit number one, is really focus on what you want to see in the market that doesn't exist. And then number two is, I'm a huge believer, and this is not a conventional wisdom. This is just my belief. I like playing in super huge saturated markets. And the reason why I like that is because I believe saturated markets by definition are the markets that have the least innovation in it. And people are scared to do it because they think that by something being saturated, people think that you cannot succeed in it. And that for me is the furthest thing from the truth. I think saturated markets prove that there's a huge customer base, and that if you create something that's 10x better than what's there, you will win at speed, you will win at scale, and you will win globally because the markets already exist. So that's my belief there. So I think those are the two things. If you stick to that, you should find success.
Awesome. This is such an incredible statement. I mean, giving that fight in a saturated market is something which you're taking head on, and this is really appreciable. So wish you all the best for this.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible place to play. Being in a saturated market is like fishing in a pond with 100 million fish. It's kind of hard not to. Warren Buffett has one. Do you guys know a little bit about Warren Buffett? So Warren Buffett is just amazing when he says it. 90% of the failed journeys he's seen in his career of other entrepreneurs is simply the entrepreneur chose to fish in a pond with no fish. And usually when you're in a pond with no fish, instead of trying to become better at fishing, it's probably better to just find a new pond with a bunch of fish.
Right. That's really interesting. Awesome. Great. So coming down to my next question, Nick, how do you see the consumer trends in the North American mainstream market? Of course, you have built it in Canada, you are building it in the US and all. So how do you look at the going forward consumer trends?
Yeah. Transparency, number one. I think people want to know who the heck they're buying from. That's where at Midday Squares, we're super committed to showing everybody everything from behind the scenes. People really love knowing who the hell they're buying food from. Number two is people just want clean label. I mean, I think it's overstated in the media about how aggressive the trends are. I think generally consumers want one thing: products that taste delicious in any way, shape, or form. So if you're selling just fresh produce or berries, it still applies. Yes. If I buy a berry from your berry company and I put it in my mouth, a raspberry, a blueberry, and it sucks, I'm not going to buy again.
Yeah. So
we left off at the complication of clean labels.
Sure.
So this is one thing. McGill is a big university in Canada, and it has an incredible food science department. And one of the things that we realized while we were working with the food science department is that there's a disconnect between reality and not reality. Okay. So I'm going to explain this. In North America, especially, I can't speak for other markets, but I can speak for North America. Culturally, there are thought leaders on television, right? Media personalities.
Yes.
And media personalities matter more than science. It's sad, but it's true. And so what was happening when we were developing the products with McGill, we were using some ingredients, and I remember the professor, the dean of food science, was saying, I don't understand why we don't just use this ingredient. It's the same thing, and it's going to be a better cost for you. It's going to be easier to manufacture with. And I remember I said, I'll give you the exact example.
Yeah.
There was a syrup that we were potentially going to use, and she was like, why would you use that syrup? It's more expensive. It's harder to get. Why don't you just use this syrup? I said, there's a media personality in North America. His name's Dr. Oz. Okay. He spoke negatively against one of the syrups.
Oh. There
is no scientific proof that that syrup is worse or better. But as entrepreneurs, that doesn't matter. If a consumer believes something, whether it's true or not, we have to follow what the consumer wants, not what the education or scientific community believes is right, because it costs too much money to educate people on what's correct or not correct. And so you have to be very weary of those things. And I think that's the second biggest, most important thing in clean label trends is sometimes you're going to come across something that doesn't make sense. Yeah. But you have to still listen to the consumer, not to the scientific papers. And that's a sad reality.
Absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great point. Awesome. So, of course, Nick, sustainability is an important element in the coming time, and you at Midday Squares are also working aggressively towards it. So, what are those non-negotiables for an emerging CPG brand to consider around the sustainability angle?
Number one, supply chain needs to be as local as possible. Sure. If and where you can create a product that is buying from local agriculture systems, it's the most important for everybody in the ecosystem. It's not even about being somebody that's trying to help the world. It just makes sense from both an economic level, a financial level, a rising with your people level, and then on top of that, making sure that you're doing the least amount of damage to the world, right? Like the lesser the distance of your products needing to travel, the less gas emissions that you're contributing to the planet. And so we've worked really, really hard on trying to make sure we can source as local as possible. And while we were doing that, we found a lot of problems.
Okay.
And so my goal now is Midday Squares cannot solve all these problems, but what we're working with is the government of Canada to educate them on the problems we're finding. For instance, here's a great example. Canada's one of the, and I know India is a pulse, has an incredible agriculture system around pulses and all that. Canada's the same thing. We have an incredible crop yield for pea.
Sure.
And right now, we send our pea in raw format to China because China uses our pea to extract starch for some of their noodle production.
Okay.
They then, once they extract the starch, they then take the leftover pea and process it into pea proteins or all these other commodities.
Sure.
And then they ship it back to Canada. And just think about the logic. It makes no sense.
Absolutely.
We grow the crop locally. We put it on a container, boat it over to Asia. They then process it. And then we, as Canadian manufacturers, are buying our own crops back from Asia.
Yeah.
So I present this to the government and saying, why the fuck are we doing this? Like, this makes no sense.
Right.
And it's simply because the infrastructures are usually not set up to do that. And so the proposition we're trying to make at Midday Squares to the local governments as we find these problems is, instead of selling pea to China, let's do the starch extraction in Canada and sell them the starch that they need.
Absolutely.
And keep the pea here.
Right.
And these are the things that nobody's talking about in sustainability. A lot of people are talking about gas emissions. A lot of people are talking about packaging and all that. And that's all great. But for me, sustainability starts at actually looking at our roots and where crops are going.
This is such an important element,
Yeah. Same thing with, don't quote me. It's like, there's a specific fish. I think it's sardines.
Mm-hmm.
We have them in Canada. We export them for canning to South America and Asia, and then Canadian grocery stores buy it back from those same canners. But they're fish coming from our lakes. It makes no sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
absolutely. Great. So I think this is an important perception towards understanding sustainability in a greater sense. Of course, all other things are important, but I think this is a basic point which people are not really looking at.
Yeah, the basics of supply chain. Why? I think every country needs to take a hard look at where things are going.
Yes.
And our governments, and I don't even think it necessarily needs to be just the governments, we as entrepreneurs, anytime you see a product go like this, meaning you see it leave from your port and come back, you have to ask why.
Yes.
And then when you ask why, you have to ask why 5 times. Toyota management system.
Absolutely.
And then you'll get to the core of what the heck's going on.
Right. Absolutely.
And this gets into geopolitical trade as well too. Sometimes the way tariffs are set up, it actually makes sense to export a product and bring it back in, which is dangerous as well too.
Yes, I agree. So Nick, you have been successfully running Midday Squares for more than 4 years now, and
3 years. 3 years in the market, 4 years from idea.
Yeah. So based on that, so if you can throw some light on how you as an entrepreneur have grown and taking that brand forward in the CPG space.
That's a dense question. I just want to unpack it properly. Okay, so we looked at software for inspiration and social platforms that grow. And so I think when you look at, let's take a thing like Facebook. When it first started, it started in Harvard in a very micro community.
Sure.
It didn't start globally. And I think that's really, 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 really important for food entrepreneurs, is to start with an environment that they can control the most variables in.
Sure.
So let me give you an example of Canada and the US.
Yeah.
Canada. Canada in general has a land mass that is massive. It takes 6 hours by plane to get from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Sure.
So it's not a small territory at all.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs will start their food companies and they will try to sell product in both the East Coast and the West Coast. The problem is when you're first starting, you have very, very limited budget in order to make people aware of what you're doing.
Yes.
And so this is where the Facebook strategy comes in. If you start in a very small community like Harvard, it's easy to get the buzz going because the probability of people ending up in an environment where they can speak about what you're doing is very high. So the example is here, if I'm promoting Midday Squares to somebody on the West Coast, which is 6 hours away, and the East Coast, if 2 people find our product, but one's on the West and one's on the East, what is the probability of them ending up at a pub, at a hair salon, at a house, together talking about the product? It's very low probability.
Absolutely.
So you're spending all this energy that's not getting what you need. But when you focus on a really, really small community, so when we launched Midday Squares, no joke, man, I think if you took the entire area that we were covering, do you guys talk in kilometers or miles?
Kilometers.
Okay, us too. So 20 kilometers.
Okay.
We were focused on like a 25 kilometer radius.
Sure.
Everybody knew about it in those
Yeah.
25 kilometers. It looked to the people in those 25 kilometers, it felt as though Midday Squares had already taken over the world.
Oh, wow.
Because it was everywhere.
Absolutely.
If they went to their gyms, we were there. If they went to their fucking hair salons, we were there. If they went to the grocery store, we were there. If they went to a salad bar, we were there. That is possible when you focus really small.
Sure.
And like even when we were running Facebook ads and stuff like that, it was just to that community.
Very focused. Yeah.
Very focused.
Yeah.
So I think that's number one importance. Number two, that really allowed us to gain momentum fast. Number two was the idea of telling great stories.
Sure.
Storytelling is the oldest form of value creation of mankind. I mean,
Sure.
I don't need to get into it. Doesn't matter what religion or political views you have, you understand how powerful storytelling is.
Absolutely.
And so I think brands or CPG companies forget that. They think that you could just create a nice package, a good product, create a few ads, and you'll take off. And you could essentially get some good traction, but if you want to build an army of fans, you have to figure out how to appeal using storytelling. And we did that by telling a reality television show based around our lives as entrepreneurs trying to grow Midday Squares, and we still do it to this day.
Sure.
We have a full in-house media team that films everything all day. We edit it, we cut it, and we send it out. And that allows people to not just love what we're doing, but to become fans of our journey. And when you're fans of somebody's journey, you want to support. And the reason why they want to support is they see how hard we're working to make this thing a reality. And this is what more people need to do.
Interesting. I really like these two answers which you gave, Nick, around entrepreneurship, because I think this will really help entrepreneurs who are now starting up or who are already, who have already started up and building it. Because this is such an important element. People think that if in, let's say in 2 months, if I am all over the place across territories, then I am big. But unfortunately, that is something very short term, which is very apparent. But in the longer run, I think the point which you made on making that sharp focus and then expanding that, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'll give you guys an example too. I think this is really important. We got to $1 million of revenue faster than almost everybody that was in Canada selling across Canada, because of all that matters in CPG is velocity. You know it. How fast are your products turning on the shelf? Yes. You don't need a lot of distribution to have crazy high revenue.
Sure.
So use the areas that you're in and just skyrocket your revenue and then grow.
Yeah, I so agree with you. Thanks for this. Awesome. So Nick, we are in the first month of 2022, and so of course you must have also set some goals for yourself. So maybe if you can quote one personal and one professional goal.
That's a good one. Okay, so personal is to get back to enjoying the journey. Sure. So last year I lost track of that. I was pretty miserable throughout the whole year while building Midday Squares. And that's not the goal of life. You should never be in a position. It's okay as entrepreneurs. We're all going to go through it. You experience highs and lows. The key that we need to work on collectively as entrepreneurs is finding beauty in the journey of misfortune and fortune.
Yes.
It is the pinnacle to enjoying the process. I lost my way last year. And this year, I've already felt, starting 2022, it's the end of January, and I feel fucking great about how we're approaching life, my wife and I, how we're approaching entrepreneurship and our personal lives, getting back to really enjoying it. And that's my personal goal. And for the business is to finalize our rollout in the US. So to make sure by the end of the year, we should be in every natural grocery store in the United States, and get revenue to about $18 million this year. So
Wow.
that's the goal.
Wow. Wish you all the best for this. Really exciting.
Thank you, man.
Awesome. Great. So coming down to my last question for this session, Nick, what are those important aspects for a natural CPG brand to consider while designing its marketing and branding strategies?
Okay, I have deep feelings on this one. Pricing.
Okay.
You have to build price infrastructure first, not product first. So I understand now enough and know enough that it doesn't matter how good your product is or bad. If you do not fit the pricing strategies to enter CPG, you will fail.
That's so true. That's so true.
You have to understand the players. And the players are retailers, distributors, brokers. And if you are not priced accordingly, you will not be able to scale.
Yeah.
And that's why we ask ourselves, sometimes you go to a store and you taste a product and you're like, this is really not good. But yet they've been able to build a good business around it. That's how important pricing strategy is.
Sure.
Is you could get very far with a shit product if you are priced appropriately so that everybody in the supply chain can make the appropriate amount of money they're required to scale. So it is our jobs to now bring to market incredible products, but not be naive as an entrepreneur. And here's the bottom line, is if you are in grab and go items, every category is different, but if you are in grab and go items, you have to be at anywhere from 45 to 60% gross margin after trade spend, not before trade spend.
Yeah.
And if you are not, you're going to struggle. And you can fight it all you want. You could tell yourself stories. You could tell yourself why this is not true. I know enough now to know that this is true. And so it's very important to know that. And so imagine if you have to operate at 50 to 60% gross margin after trade, and grocery stores need to operate at 35% gross margin, and distributors need to operate at 20%. You have a lot of people that need to get paid.
Yes.
And your numbers could go up very quickly if you forget how to do that pricing strategy. Number one mistake that I see just kill entrepreneurs in CPG is that.
Awesome. Maybe if you can throw some light on, of course, this pricing strategy is very important, but if we look at the branding strategy, what are those maybe initial thoughts that you may want to advise the emerging brands on?
Yeah, I would say early on, we made the mistake of having too many value propositions.
Mm-hmm.
You need one strong value proposition. That's it.
Sure.
Simple,
Okay.
Very, very simple. Midday Squares, we help you solve your hunger cravings.
That's it. Okay.
That's it. Not Midday Squares, plant-based, gluten-free, this, that. What is the value proposition that you are getting to? And it should be anywhere from 1 to 3. For us, it's delicious, solve cravings. That's it. When we started, there was a lot more of that. And so I think it's important to, as a brand, become as quickly synonymous with a very simple idea. So you want to make sure that your consumers know you for a very simple idea, as quick as possible. I think that's the key to all great branding.
Okay. Lovely. So I think,
and again, I do want to say one thing though, a lot of people come on these types of things and try to I'm not a know-it-all. This is just the Midday Squares experience. Absolutely. There is 150 ways, 100,000 ways to become successful in food CPG. All I want people to know after listening to this is just what we've gone through, and here's my learnings. Take what you want from them.
Absolutely. The kind of responses which you have given are, really incredible in the sense that these are very practical ones. And because, of course, you also started it from scratch, and built it big in Canada and now expanding to US. So this is incredible. I mean,
yeah, I mean, like I know we didn't get a chance to speak about the manufacturing. Okay, so I don't know how the manufacturing culture is in India specifically. I know this community is not just India, but I'm curious, so I'm asking you a question.
Sure.
In Canada, so I worked in China for a while.
Okay.
I worked at after high school. I was in a lot of the factories in China. China has a culture that promotes manufacturing of different tiers. So in China, you can find a mom and pop operation that's manufacturing all the way up to the most robust, incredible infrastructure. They promote it. We don't promote that in Canada. We promote you have to be a robust top tier manufacturer right away. There is no such thing as being excited for mom and pop manufacturing operations, okay? What I want to say to fellow CPG entrepreneurs in both the US, Canada, and all over the world is we started manufacturing in my condo that was 1,200 square feet. We moved all of our furniture out of it. We got it certified by Health Canada, and we built the business to $1 million of revenue out of our condo. Wow. Fast forward today, we have a robust manufacturing plant that could support $50 million of revenue, fully automated. And the only way we got here was because we started with a shitty little mom and pop manufacturing plant. And we went to a phase 2, and this is phase 3. So don't let people tell you that you have to be a robust manufacturer right away.
From day one, yeah.
You could start very small as a manufacturer and build your way into a grand manufacturer. That's a culture that existed in China that doesn't exist in North America. I'm trying to promote this new culture of we have to champion people to start with small manufacturing operations and grow them, or else we're never going to bring manufacturing to the robustness that it needs to be. And so how's the culture in India? What's the culture like in manufacturing?
So as you had mentioned about China, it is a similar culture that, I mean, there are very small setups as well, people operating out of a garage, right from a garage to a room, and then there are these small scale industries. So in India also, such kind of manufacturing is getting a lot of promotion as they want to build entrepreneurship. And that is the reason, Nick, that India is now evolving as a great startup ecosystem. Because
I hear it all over the place. I can't wait to come.
Yeah. We are happy to host you here. Please, I mean, we'll invite you, and please do come. It's a great nation, and you'll love it here.
I am very excited to do that. So see, that makes me happy, and it makes me sad at the same time, because I wish our culture promoted that as much. And I'm really trying to be a voice for that.
Yeah, but you have already started taking those steps towards it, which is incredible. And I'm sure it will go a long way.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm giving it that's my contribution, hopefully, to society, is to inspire 20-year-olds to become manufacturers, because nobody wants to be manufacturers.
Absolutely. That's lovely. So thank you so much once again for your time, Nick. And this was such an interesting conversation, and I'm looking forward to host you more times, and looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
I love it, man.
Awesome.